The strange arrival. The night sky of Avelora shimmered like a silver ocean, filled with 2 glowing moons that watched the land below. Inside the royal palace, Queen Avelora stood by the balcony, her golden robe trailing behind her. Her eyes searched the dark horizon, where a strange fire had fallen from the sky. The fire was not from any known starship, not from her fleet, not from her enemies. It was something else, something older, something alive. The queen turned to her guards, her voice calm but cold. "Bring the craft here, and if there is a being inside, do not harm it," she ordered. The guards bowed and left, their armor glinting in the moonlight. She stayed alone for a moment, her heart uneasy. Alaris had been peaceful for decades, but her instincts whispered that peace was ending tonight. Hours later, the doors of her throne room opened with a hiss. 4 soldiers entered, carrying something small, wrapped in glowing cloth. The queen's eyes widened. It was a child, not an Alarian child, not from her world. Its skin shimmered faint blue, and its eyes were pure silver. It looked both fragile and powerful at the same time. "What is this creature?" whispered one of the advisors. The queen raised her hand, silencing him. She walked closer, her gaze locked on the small face. The child opened its eyes and stared at her. For a heartbeat, the whole room fell silent. Then, in a soft, trembling voice, the alien child spoke. "Where is the scary human?" Everyone froze. The queen's breath caught in her throat. "What did you say?" she asked quietly. "The scary human," the child repeated. "I want him." No one moved. Humans were a legend on Alaris. Ancient creatures from distant galaxies, known only from old tales of war and terror. No one had seen one for centuries, but the child looked afraid, not of the queen, but of something else, something beyond her understanding. The queen knelt beside the child, her voice soft. "There are no humans here. Little one." The child shook its head, tears floating like silver drops. "He promised to come back," it whispered. "He said he would tuck me in." The queen's heart trembled for the first time in years. This child was no threat. She could feel it. But whoever the scary human was, he had touched the child's heart deeply. She ordered the royal medic to scan the being. The results came fast. The DNA pattern was unknown, but there were traces of human code hidden deep inside. Impossible, the queen thought. The child was part human. A wave of unease swept through the council. Some whispered that it was a trap. Others said it was a prophecy. But the queen could not stop looking at the child. "Who are you?" she asked gently. The child's eyes glowed, and strange symbols appeared on its skin. "I am Lyra," it said. And the scary human said, "You would keep me safe." Those words struck her like lightning. How could a human, from a race thought to be extinct, know her name? And why would he send this child to her? The queen dismissed her guards and carried the child herself. As she walked through the corridors, she felt a strange warmth spreading from Lyra's small body. It wasn't heat. It was energy, deep, old, and full of sorrow. When they reached the royal chamber, the queen placed Lyra on a silk bed. The child looked around, confused but calm. "Where is he?" Lyra asked again. "He will come," the queen said softly, though she did not believe her own words. Outside, the sky thundered again. Another light streaked across the clouds, this one darker, sharper, like a blade cutting through heaven. The royal guard shouted. The palace alarm screamed. But deep inside, Lyra smiled. "He's here," she whispered. "The scary human is here." The queen turned toward the window, her pulse racing. A dark figure stepped out of the crash site, his body armored, his face hidden under a broken helmet. The ground cracked beneath his boots as he walked. Every soldier who looked at him felt fear crawl up their spine. The air around him shimmered like fire and frost mixed together. He was not a demon, not a machine, but something in between. The queen's mind spun. Was this the protector the child spoke of? or the destroyer from her nightmares. The man stopped at the gates, looked up at the palace, and spoke in a voice that echoed through the night. "I've come for the child." The guards aimed their weapons. The queen stepped forward, her eyes burning with command. "You will not take her," she said. For a long moment no one moved. Then, the man lifted his head slightly, revealing tired human eyes. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "you don't understand. She's not what she seems." The queen felt the world tilt. Lyra's soft voice came from behind her. "Don't hurt him," she said. "He's the scary human. But he saved me." The queen turned, her heart torn between fear and curiosity, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly unsure of what was right. The scary humans returned. The royal palace shook as the strange man stepped through the smoke. His armor was cracked, his left arm sparking with faint blue light, yet his eyes were steady, cold human eyes that carried stories of endless wars. The queen stared from her balcony, trying to understand how a creature of legend now stood in her world. The guards surrounded him, but he didn't raise his weapon. "I didn't come to fight," he said, his voice low and tired. "I came to protect what you don't understand." The queen descended the stairs, her royal robe brushing the marble floor. Behind her, the alien child, Lyra, peeked from the doorway, her silver eyes glowing softly. "Who are you?" the queen demanded. He hesitated, his jaw tight. "They used to call me Commander Hayes," he said. "A long time ago, I fought to keep your world safe, until your kind forgot humans ever existed." The room fell silent. The word human hung in the air like forbidden fire. Lyra ran to him, ignoring the guards. She clutched his arm and whispered, "You came back." Hayes knelt and touched her face gently. "I told you I would," he said. "I never break a promise." The queen watched, confusion twisting in her heart. This scary human looked dangerous, yet the way he looked at the child was full of sorrow, not violence. "Why is this child important to you?" the queen asked. Hayes looked up, his face hardening. "She's not just a child," he said. "She's a key, a living weapon made by those who wanted to control the stars." The queen's eyes widened. Lyra stepped back, shaking her head. "No, I'm not a weapon," she whispered. Hayes sighed. "You don't know what you are yet." "Kid," the queen's advisors whispered in panic. "Your Majesty, he must be lying," said one. "No human could have survived the Great War." Hayes turned sharply, his glare enough to silence them. "I survived because I had to," he said. "And because she needed me." The queen raised her hand, commanding calm. "Explain," she said. Hayes nodded slowly, his gaze turning distant. "Your empire found a way to merge DNA, human and alien, to create beings who could resist the void, live in the vacuum, heal faster than any known life." He looked at Lyra, his voice softening. She was the only one who survived the experiment. The queen felt cold wind rush through her chest. Her scientists had whispered about lost programs from ancient times, but none had proof. Now one of those secrets stood breathing before her. "But why would she seek you?" she asked. Hayes looked down, his voice barely a whisper. "Because when she was created, she cried for a mother, and I was the only one who stayed." Lyra stepped forward, her small hand glowing faintly. "I remember your stories," she said, "about the stars, and about humans who fought monsters to protect others." The queen's gaze softened slightly, but her instincts stayed sharp. "What danger follows her now?" she asked. Hayes looked toward the window, where the sky burned red. "The ones who made her," he said. "They're coming to claim her back." A sudden tremor shook the ground. The lights flickered, and a deep hum rolled through the palace walls. Lyra clutched the queen's robe, trembling. "They've found us," Hayes muttered, pulling a small device from his belt. Blue holographic symbols flashed into the air, showing ships descending fast, massive dark vessels shaped like claws. tearing through the clouds. The queen turned to her generals. "Prepare the defense grid," she commanded. Hayes stepped forward. "You don't understand. Your weapons won't stop them." "Then what will?" she demanded. Hayes looked at Lyra. "She will." Lyra's eyes widened in fear. "I can't," she cried. Hayes knelt in front of her. His voice, firm but kind. "You can. Remember what I told you. You're stronger than they ever knew." The queen watched in disbelief as light began to rise from Lyra's skin. Her silver eyes turned white. Her hair lifted as energy surrounded her body like a storm of stars. The room shook again, but now it was from her power. The queen shielded her face, unable to look directly. Hayes stood tall beside her, his armor sparking again. "She's not a weapon," he said quietly. "She's hope." Outside, the invading ships began to slow, their energy shields flickering. One by one, they stopped in midair, frozen by an unseen force. Lyra's small voice echoed through the palace. "Go away," she said, her tone filled with childlike innocence and unimaginable strength. The sky exploded with light, and the ships vanished, leaving only silence behind. Lyra collapsed into Hayes's arms. Exhausted but alive, the queen approached slowly, her eyes wide with wonder. "She saved us," she whispered. Hayes nodded. "And now, every world will come looking for her." The queen looked from the child to the man. "Then she will stay under my protection," she said firmly. Hayes met her gaze. "Then you just made yourself part of a war that never ended." Thunder rolled again, this time from the far side of the galaxy. The queen didn't flinch. Her world had changed, and so had she, for the first time in her reign. She felt something powerful and terrifying. Hope mixed with fear. The scary human looked at the stars, his expression unreadable. "Round 1 is over," he said. "But they'll come again." The queen nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready," she said. The secret within the stars. The palace was quiet again, but it was not peace. It was the silence that comes after thunder, heavy, waiting, alive. Queen Avelora stood beside the child's bed, watching Lyra sleep. Her small chest rose and fell softly, glowing with a faint silver light. The queen's mind could not rest. She had seen gods, wars, miracles, but nothing like this child, and nothing like the human who protected her. Commander Hayes stood by the window, looking out at the horizon. The dawn painted the sky gold, but his eyes saw only old memories. He had fought across worlds that no longer existed. He had seen cities burn and stars fall, and now he stood in a foreign palace with a child that could change everything. The queen spoke softly. "She dreams." Hayes nodded without turning. "She always does. That's when her power grows." The queen frowned. "She's still a child. She deserves peace, not experiments." Hayes smiled sadly. "That's why I took her away." He turned toward her, his expression heavy with guilt. "They created her in a lab on Titan's edge," he said. "She was never meant to live, just to be tested." The queen's eyes darkened. "And you worked for them?" Hayes nodded once. "I did. Until I couldn't anymore." He walked closer, his voice low and rough. When I saw her open her eyes for the first time, she smiled. That smile broke me, because I realized she wasn't a weapon. She was alive. The queen's heart softened, but her warrior's mind stayed sharp. And now the same people who made her will never stop hunting her. Hayes clenched his fist, sparks flickering from his damaged arm. "They call themselves the architects," he said. "They built civilizations and destroyed them when they grew disobedient." The queen's breath caught. "You mean they built us?" Hayes met her gaze. "Yes. And they built me too." A tremor of shock ran through her. "What are you saying?" she whispered. "I'm not fully human anymore," he said quietly. "I was rebuilt with their code, like her." The queen took a step back, staring at him as if seeing him for the first time. His veins glowed faint blue beneath the skin. his pulse beating like a machine and a heart together. He wasn't just a man. He was part of the same secret that made Lyra. Lyra stirred in her sleep, whispering words in an unknown tongue. The queen leaned closer. "What is she saying?" Hayes closed his eyes, listening. "She's calling the stars," he said. "She always does when she feels alone." The room dimmed, and a soft hum filled the air. Light symbols floated above Lyra's body, forming a spiral that reached the ceiling. The queen stepped back. "What's happening?" Hayes grabbed his weapon but didn't aim it. "She's linking to something, a memory, maybe a message." The air shimmered, and suddenly a figure appeared in the light. A tall being made of shifting energy. No face, no form, only presence. It spoke in a voice that sounded like 1,000 whispers. "To the one who shelters the child. Beware!" The queen's heart pounded. "Who are you?" she demanded. "I am what remains of the architects," the voice replied. "The child you protect is not meant for your world. She is meant to end it." Lyra's eyes opened, glowing white, her small voice trembling. "No, I won't hurt anyone," she said. The figure's voice turned cold. "You were made to balance creation, to erase what has become corrupt," the queen shouted. "Leave her alone." But the figure only turned toward Hayes. "And you, human, you are our hand, our weapon, and our mistake." Hayes raised his gun, though he knew it would do nothing. "You made me a killer," he said, "but I learned to choose who I protect." The light flickered. The voice roared. "Then you choose extinction!" Lyra screamed, the light around her shattering into thousands of bright fragments. The figure dissolved, leaving silence and the faint sound of Lyra's sobs. Hayes rushed to her, holding her close. "It's over," he said, though fear still lingered in his eyes. The queen stood frozen, her heart torn between duty and compassion. She looked at the child who had saved her world, and the man who carried its curse. "Commander," she said, "if what that being said is true, then every empire will hunt her, including mine." Hayes stood, his voice steady. "Then we leave before dawn." Lyra clung to his arm, her small voice weak. "I don't want to run anymore." Hayes looked down at her, his voice soft. "Then we don't run, we fight." The queen stepped forward, her golden armor gleaming in the first light of day. "No," she said firmly, "you won't fight alone." Hayes looked at her, surprised. "Why risk your world for something you don't understand?" The queen smiled faintly, her eyes fierce. "Because I've ruled too long without believing in something worth dying for." Hayes stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Then may the stars forgive us both," he said. Outside, thunder rolled again. Not from the skies, but from distant engines awakening in orbit. Lyra looked up, her silver eyes full of light and fear. "They're here," she whispered. The queen turned to her soldiers, her voice clear and strong. "Prepare the palace shields. Summon every fleet. This is not just our fight anymore." Hayes loaded his weapon. The queen drew her blade, and between them stood Lyra, the small, glowing child who might save the universe or end it. The dawn burned brighter, turning red across the sky. The war for the stars had begun again. The last light of Alaris. The sky of Alaris burned with crimson fire. Dark ships covered the stars like shadows with wings. The architects had returned, and this time they came with an army. The palace shields glowed bright blue, humming with desperate energy. Queen Avelora stood on the tower, her golden armor reflecting the flames. She looked down at her people, all waiting for her signal. This was not just another war, it was survival itself. Inside the palace, Lyra stood between two worlds, human and alien, heart and machine. Her small hands trembled as energy rippled through her skin. Commander Hayes knelt beside her, his armor cracked, his face tired but calm. "You can do this, kid," he said softly. "You're stronger than they ever wanted you to be." Lyra shook her head. "If I use my power, I'll destroy everything." Hayes smiled gently. "Or maybe you'll save it." The queen entered the chamber, her voice sharp with command. "The shields won't hold for long," she said. "We must strike first." Hayes looked at her. "If we strike, we die. Then what do you suggest?" she asked. He pointed to Lyra. "We let her connect to the source, the same energy the architects use." The Queen's eyes widened. "That could kill her." Hayes nodded. "Or free her." Lyra looked up, her silver eyes shimmering with tears. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she whispered. The Queen knelt before her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes," she said, "saving others means walking through the fire yourself." Lyra looked between them, the human who saved her and the Queen who protected her. And in that moment, she made her choice. Outside, lightning fell from the sky as the architect fleet fired their beams. The ground cracked, and towers crumbled like sand. Hayes grabbed Lyra's hand and led her to the ancient chamber beneath the palace. The walls there pulsed with strange blue veins. Alive, breathing, ancient. "This is the heart of Alaris," the Queen said. "Our oldest secret." Hayes smiled faintly. "Then it's time your secret met mine." He placed a small metallic chip into the center of the floor. It glowed, connecting with the living walls. A deep hum filled the chamber, and Lyra gasped. "I can feel them," she whispered. "They're calling me." The Queen stepped back, her sword drawn. "Then answer them." Lyra raised her hands, and light exploded from her bodies. Her hair floated like silver fire. Her eyes turned white. Images flashed across the chamber. Worlds being born, stars dying, and faces of countless beings. She saw the architects, their cold beauty, their endless hunger for control, and she saw humans. Wild, brave, defiant. The only species that ever said no. The architect's voice thundered through the sky. "You cannot fight creation itself," Hayes shouted back. "Watch us!" Lyra screamed as the energy surged through her. The palace shook, cracks spreading across the marble. Hayes moved toward her, but the light pushed him back. "Lyra!" he yelled. "Listen to me. You're not their weapon. You're my kid." She turned her glowing eyes toward him, tears burning like stars. "I'm scared," she whispered. He smiled, though pain filled his face. "It's okay to be scared. That's what makes you human." The Queen watched, her heart breaking. Lyra spread her arms wide, and the light shot into the sky. It reached the architect fleet. Wrapping around every ship, the ships froze, their engines dying one by one. The architects screamed through the void, their energy unraveling into dust. And then everything went silent when the light faded. The Queen opened her eyes slowly. The palace was half destroyed, smoke rising into the dawn. Hayes lay on the ground, motionless. Lyra crawled toward him, weak and trembling. "Wake up," she whispered. "You promised." The Queen knelt beside them, placing her hand over his chest. There was no heartbeat. Lyra's tears fell like silver rain on his armor. The Queen whispered, "He gave you peace." Lyra's light dimmed, her voice breaking. "He said he'd tuck me in," she said softly. The Queen closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Then he did," she whispered. "He tucked the whole world into safety." Hours passed. The fires died, and the sky cleared. The two moons shone again. Calm and pale, Lyra stood on the balcony, wrapped in the Queen's cloak. She looked at the stars and smiled faintly. "Will he ever come back?" she asked. The Queen placed a hand on her shoulder. "Heroes never really leave, child," she said. "They become the light we follow, far above, in the endless dark." A single star flickered brighter than the rest, and if one listened closely, there was a voice, faint but strong. "Sleep now, kid," it said. "I've got the night watch." The Queen looked up, her heart heavy yet full of hope. The war was over. The world was broken but alive, and the alien child, once lost and afraid, had become its guardian. The people would speak of her and the scary human for centuries. Two souls, one human, one beyond, who faced the gods and won. The queen turned to Lyra and whispered, "Come, my child. It's time to rest." Lyra smiled softly, her silver eyes glowing in the moonlight. "Will you tuck me in?" she asked. The queen smiled through her tears. "Yes," she said, just like he would have. And for the first time in ages, the palace of Alaris was quiet. Not with fear, but with peace.